I am 58 years old. For 35 of those years, I was married to a man named Richard. He was a financial advisor, respected in our community. People saw him as steady and reliable. They saw us as the perfect couple. Stable, comfortable, and heading toward a golden retirement together. But for a long time, I had felt a quiet unease. It was like living in a beautiful house with a crack in the foundation. You could ignore it for a while. You could paint over it. But you always knew it was there, slowly growing wider. The feeling got worse in the months leading up to Richard's retirement. He was leaving his firm after 40 years. A huge party was planned in his honor. It was all anyone could talk about. His colleagues, our friends, his family, they were all so excited to celebrate him. I was supposed to be the proud wife, standing by his side, and I tried. I smiled when I was supposed to smile. I nodded when they told me how lucky I was. But inside, the crack was turning into a chasm. Richard had always handled the money. It was his profession, after all. He told me it was easier that way. He said I did not need to worry my pretty little head about it. Early in our marriage, I thought it was sweet. I thought he was taking care of me. I was a teacher. I loved my job, but it did not pay what his did. He set up all our accounts. He managed our investments. He filed our taxes. He always said, "We are a team, Clara. I make the money, and you make the home." It sounded fair at the time. But over the years, his control tightened. It was no longer about making things easier for me. It was about power. If I asked about our savings, he would get annoyed. "Clara, do you not trust me?" he would ask. The question was a trap. If I said I did, the conversation was over. If I said I did not, I was the ungrateful, suspicious wife. So I learned to stop asking. I trusted that my pension, the one I earned over 30 years of teaching, was safe. It was in my name. I thought it was the one thing that was truly mine. He had helped me set it up, of course. He filled out the paperwork. He told me where to sign. I trusted him. That was my mistake. The unease became a constant hum in the back of my mind. He started being careless. He would leave his phone face down on the table. He would quickly close his laptop when I walked into the room. He would get strange, unmarked envelopes in the mail and tear them up immediately. When I asked who a letter was from, he would say it was just junk mail. But he never used to be so jumpy. He was always so calm, so in control. Now he seemed distracted, on edge. Our daughter Lily saw it too. She was 28 and had a spine of steel. She never liked the way her father treated me. "He talks to you like you're a child, Mom," she would say. She lived in the city, but she called me every day. In the weeks before the party, her calls became more pointed. "How are you really doing, Mom?" she would ask. "Is Dad acting weird to you?" I tried to brush it off. "He is just stressed about retiring, honey," I told her. "It is a big change." "No, it is more than that," she insisted. "He is hiding something. I can feel it." I did not want to believe her. Admitting she was right would mean admitting my entire life was not what I thought it was. It was easier to pretend. It was easier to focus on the party. I bought a new dress. I helped Richard's sister, Carol, with the guest list. Carol adored her brother. In her eyes, Richard could do no wrong. She often told me how lucky I was to have landed him. "He could have had anyone, you know," she would say with a tight little smile. She treated me like I was the hired help in my own marriage. A week before the big event, I was sorting the mail. There was a thick envelope from the company that managed my pension. It looked official. Usually, Richard would grab these. He would say, "I will file this for you, dear." But he was out golfing. I was alone. My heart started beating a little faster. I slit the envelope open with a kitchen knife. Inside was a document titled Spousal Benefit Confirmation. I scanned the pages. They were filled with legal terms and numbers I did not understand. But one line jumped out at me. It confirmed that the survivor benefits of my pension plan had been waived. I read it again, and again, waived. It meant that if I passed away, my pension benefits would not go to my spouse. That was strange. Why would I waive that? Richard was my spouse. Then I saw the next section. It was a designation of new beneficiary form. A copy of it was attached. It stated that upon my death, 100% of my remaining pension assets would be transferred to a new beneficiary. I looked for the name. It was not Richard. It was a name I had never seen before. Brenda Schofield. My blood ran cold. Who was Brenda Schofield? Why was her name on my pension form? I looked at the bottom of the form. There was a signature next to a line that read, Plan Participant's Signature. It was supposed to be my signature. It looked like my signature, but I had never, ever signed a document like this. I would have remembered giving away my life's work to a stranger. I sank into a kitchen chair. The papers trembled in my hand. This had to be a mistake. A clerical error. It had to be. I told myself to stay calm. There was a logical explanation. I would just ask Richard when he got home. He would clear it all up. He would make a phone call and fix it. He was good at fixing things. But another part of me, the part that had been feeling that quiet unease for years, knew this was not a mistake. This was the crack in the foundation finally splitting open. This was what he was hiding. My mind raced. The secretive phone calls, the hidden mail, the jumpiness. It all started to click into place, forming a picture I did not want to see. I spent the rest of the afternoon in a daze. I put the papers back in the envelope and hid them in my closet, tucked away in a shoebox where I kept old photographs. I did not want Richard to see them. Not yet. I needed to think. I could not face him. Not until I understood what this meant. When he came home, whistling, smelling of cut grass and sunshine, I felt a wave of nausea. He kissed my cheek. "Hello, dear," he said cheerfully. "What is for dinner?" I am a good cook. I always have been. It was part of my role in our marriage. He provided, and I made the home. But that night, I could barely bring myself to go through the motions. I felt like a stranger in my own kitchen. Every move was heavy, deliberate. Chopping vegetables felt like a monumental task. "Is something wrong, Clara?" Richard asked from the living room. He was reading the newspaper. "You are awfully quiet." I took a deep breath. "Just tired," I said. My voice sounded thin. "Long day?" "Well, hurry up with dinner," he said, not looking up. "I am starving." That little comment, one he had made 1,000 times before, suddenly felt like a slap. I was not his partner. I was his staff. The thought came out of nowhere, sharp and clear. I looked at the knife in my hand. For a fleeting second, I had a terrible thought. I pushed it away, horrified at myself. I was not that person. I was Clara. Calm, steady, reliable Clara. We ate dinner in silence. I could feel his eyes on me. He knew something was off. I could see the questions forming in his mind. But he did not ask again. He just ate his food, then retreated to his study to make phone calls. I heard his voice, low and muffled, through the closed door. I wondered who he was talking to. Was he talking to her? Brenda? The name echoed in my head. Brenda. Brenda. Brenda Schofield. I had to know who she was. After Richard went to bed, I crept into his study. His laptop was on the desk, closed. For our entire marriage, I had never once looked through his things. I respected his privacy. But that respect was gone. It had vanished the moment I saw that name on my pension form. I opened the laptop. It required a password. I tried the obvious ones. Our anniversary. His birthday. Lily's birthday. Nothing worked. Then I remembered something from years ago. He had a dog when he was a boy, a golden retriever named Buddy. He had loved that dog. On a whim, I typed in Buddy 23. The screen unlocked. My heart pounded in my chest. I felt like a criminal, but I could not stop. I went straight to his email. I did not know what I was looking for. I just started searching. I typed Brenda into the search bar. Dozens of emails popped up. My hands started to shake. I clicked on the most recent one. It was from a woman named Brenda Schofield. The subject line was, "Our future." My breath caught in my throat. I read the email. It was sickeningly sweet. She talked about their recent weekend trip. She mentioned how she could not wait for him to be free. "Once the party is over," she wrote, "we can finally start our life together. I have been looking at houses in Arizona. You will love the golf courses." There was more. She talked about money. "I am so grateful for what you are doing for me, Richie," she wrote. "Knowing that we will be secure no matter what means the world to me. That pension was a brilliant idea. She will never even know. She will never even know." The words burned into my brain. So this was the plan. He was going to leave me. After his retirement party. After everyone had toasted him and celebrated his wonderful life with his wonderful wife. He was going to pack his bags and move to Arizona with his mistress. And he was going to fund their new life with my money. My pension. The money I had earned from 30 years of standing on my feet, teaching children how to read. I felt a rage so pure and hot it almost choked me. It was not just about the money. It was the betrayal, the humiliation, the years of lies. He had been planning this. While I was making his dinner, washing his clothes, raising his child, he was plotting to throw me away like a piece of trash. I closed the laptop, my mind reeling. I could not breathe. I stumbled out of the study and went to the bathroom. I leaned over the sink, splashing cold water on my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. My face was pale, my eyes were wide with shock and horror. But underneath the shock, something else was stirring. A cold, hard anger. He was not going to get away with this. I would not let him. He thought I was weak. He thought I was stupid. He thought I would never find out. He had underestimated me. For the last time. My first thought was to confront him right then and there. To wake him up and scream at him. To show him the emails and the pension form. But I stopped myself. What would that accomplish? He would deny it. He would gaslight me. He would turn it around and make it my fault for snooping. He would destroy the evidence. And it would be my word against his. The respected financial advisor versus the hysterical, suspicious wife. I knew who everyone would believe. No, a direct confrontation was not the answer. Not yet. I needed a plan. I needed more than just a suspicion. I needed undeniable proof. I needed to be smart. I needed to be strategic. He had spent years planning my destruction. I would spend the next week planning his. His retirement party was in 6 days. The party he was so looking forward to. The celebration of his life and career. It was meant to be his crowning achievement. I decided then and there, standing in my cold, dark bathroom at 2 a.m, that it would be, but not in the way he imagined. It would be the day his perfect life came crashing down, and I would be the one to light the match. The next morning, I woke up before him. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table the way I always did, but everything felt different. The house felt like a stage set. I felt like an actress playing a part, the part of the loving wife. I had to hold it together. I had to be normal. Any change in my behavior would tip him off. When he came downstairs, he seemed relieved that I was acting like myself. "You seem better this morning," he said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. "I just had a long day yesterday," I replied, forcing a small smile. "I am fine." "Good," he said, "because we have a lot to do this week. The party is just around the corner." He was excited. Giddy, almost. It made me sick. He was looking forward to his victory lap before he abandoned me. The first step of my plan was to confirm the forgery. I needed to talk to the pension company again, but I could not do it from the house. He might overhear. I waited until he left for a lunch meeting with some old colleagues. As soon as his car was out of the driveway, I grabbed my purse and drove to a nearby park. I sat on a bench, my heart pounding, and dialed the number on the pension statement. I spoke to a customer service representative named Maria. I told her I had some questions about a recent statement. I kept my voice calm and steady. I received a confirmation about a change to my beneficiary, I said. I just want to make sure I understand it correctly. Of course, ma'am, she said politely. Can you confirm your name and plan number? I gave her the information. I heard her typing. Okay, Mrs. Miller, she said. I see here that you filed a spousal waiver form last month, electing to waive the qualified pre-retirement survivor annuity. Right, I said, and I just wanted to double-check the process for that. What is required to make that kind of change? Well, she said, her voice becoming a little more cautious. It is a significant change, so we have a strict protocol. You would have had to complete the waiver form. It requires your signature, and it must be witnessed by a notary public or a plan representative. A notary. That was a new piece of information. My mind raced. A notary? I repeated. I see. And you would have a copy of that signed form on file? Yes, we would, she said. We are required to keep it for our records. This was it. The key. Is there any way I could get a copy of that form? I asked, trying to sound casual. I seem to have misplaced my copy, and I just want to have it for my personal records. There was a pause. That is an unusual request, ma'am, Maria said slowly. We do not typically send out copies of executed forms. Can I ask why you need it? I had to think fast. My husband and I are just doing some estate planning. I lied. Our lawyer wants copies of everything. You know how lawyers are. I let out a small, forced laugh. It must have worked. I understand, she said. Let me see. I think I can request a copy be sent to you from our records department. It might take a few business days. Is the address we have on file for you still correct? She read my home address back to me. My heart sank. I could not have it sent to the house. Richard would get to the mail first. Actually, I said quickly, could you send it to a different address? I will be staying with my daughter for a little while to help with her new baby. Another lie. Lily did not have a baby. We can only send official documents to the address on file, ma'am, she said firmly. It is for your security. I felt a surge of panic. This was a dead end. I understand, I said, trying to hide my disappointment. Thank you for your help. I was about to hang up when an idea struck me. A risky one. Wait, I said. Is there any way I could come pick it up in person? Your main office is not too far from me. There was another long pause. I could hear her typing again. I held my breath. That is highly irregular, she said. But given that you are the plan holder, I suppose it is possible. You would need to bring 2 forms of government-issued identification, and you would need to make an appointment. I can do that, I said immediately. When can I come in? We scheduled an appointment for 2 days later. When I hung up the phone, I was shaking, but I was also filled with a new sense of purpose. I was going to get that form. I was going to see the signature he forged. I was going to have my proof. That night, I called Lily. I told her everything. I started with the letter, the strange name, the waived benefits. Her reaction was quiet at first, a stunned silence on the other end of the line. Then I heard her take a sharp breath. Mom, she said, her voice low and furious. He did what? I told her about the emails, about Brenda, about Arizona. As I spoke, I could feel her anger building, mirroring my own. When I was finished, there was another long silence. I am going to kill him, she finally said. The words were flat, devoid of emotion, which made them even more chilling. No, I said firmly. We are not going to kill him. We are going to ruin him. Publicly. in front of everyone he cares about. I explained my idea, the retirement party, the public exposure. Lily was hesitant at first. Mom, that is so dramatic. Are you sure you want to do that? It will be a huge scene. He planned to humiliate me privately, I said, my voice hardening. To leave me with nothing after 35 years, I think he deserves a little public humiliation. Do you not? I could almost hear the smile in her voice. Okay, she said. I am in. What do you need me to do? We talked for over an hour, refining the plan. Lily was smart. She thought of things I had not. We need more than just the form, Mom, she said. We need to prove the affair. Photos, anything. We need to make it so undeniable that no one can defend him. She was right. A forged signature was one thing, but proof of a long-term affair, coupled with the financial fraud? That was a different level of betrayal. That was something no one could ignore. How do we do that? I asked. Leave it to me, Lily said. I have a friend who works in private investigation. I will make a call. The next day felt impossibly long. I had to continue the charade with Richard. We had to finalize the catering for the party. He was in high spirits, tasting samples of miniature quiches and bruschetta. This is going to be wonderful, Clara, he said, squeezing my shoulder. A night to remember. Yes, I said, looking him straight in the eye. It certainly will be. He just smiled, oblivious. He did not see the ice in my gaze. He only saw what he wanted to see. His quiet, compliant wife. The day of my appointment at the pension office arrived. I told Richard I was having lunch with my friend, Sarah. He did not question it. He was too busy writing his speech for the party. He had been working on it for days, practicing in front of the mirror in his study. I could hear him murmuring about a lifetime of hard work and the support of my wonderful family. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. The pension company's office was in a sterile, modern building downtown. I felt incredibly nervous as I walked in. I gave my name to the receptionist and sat down in the waiting area. Every minute felt like an hour. Finally, a woman came out and called my name. It was Maria, the representative I had spoken to on the phone. She led me to a small, windowless room. I have the document you requested, Mrs. Miller, she said, placing a folder on the table. I just need to see your 2 forms of ID. I handed her my driver's license and my passport. She examined them carefully, comparing the photos to my face. She seemed satisfied. She opened the folder and pushed a single piece of paper across the table. This is the form from your file, she said. I looked down at it. It was the spousal waiver form. And there at the bottom was my signature. Or what was supposed to be my signature. It was a good forgery. The slant was right. The loops were similar, but it was not mine. It was too perfect, too neat. My real signature was always a little bit messier, especially at the end. And then I saw it. The notary stamp. It was from a notary public named George Bell. The date of the signature was just over a month ago, on a Tuesday. I remembered that Tuesday. I had been at home all day, gardening. I had not gone anywhere. I had not met with any notary named George Bell. Thank you, I said to Maria, my voice barely a whisper. I slid the paper back into the folder. This is what I needed. Is everything all right, Mrs. Miller? She asked. She must have seen the look on my face. I had to be careful. I could not let her know what was happening. Not yet. Yes. Everything is fine, I said, forcing a smile. Just seeing it in black and white is a little jarring. Giving up a benefit, you know. I understand, she said sympathetically. It is a big decision. It certainly is, I said. I stood up, clutching the folder. Thank you for your help, Maria. She gave me a copy of the form, as promised. I walked out of that building holding the single most important piece of paper of my life. The forgery was the heart of his crime. It was concrete. It was undeniable. When I got back to my car, I called Lily immediately. I have it, I said, my voice shaking with a mixture of fear and triumph. I have the forged form. That is great, Mom, she said. And I have some news, too. My PI friend got to work fast. He found her. Brenda? I asked. Brenda Schofield, Lily confirmed. She is a real estate agent, divorced. Lives in a condo about 20 minutes from you. The PI did a little digging. Apparently, she has a reputation. She tends to date wealthy, older, married men. My stomach turned. So I was not the first. And? I prompted. And, Lily said, her voice tight with satisfaction. He got photos. From yesterday. Dad was supposed to be at a planning lunch with his partner, right? Yes, I said. Well, he was. Just not his business partner. Lily sent the photos to my phone. A second later, it buzzed. I opened the message. There they were. Richard and a woman with bleached blonde hair sitting on a restaurant patio. They were holding hands across the table. In another photo, he was leaning in to kiss her. It was them. It was real. The PI is going to follow them for the next few days, Lily said. He is confident he can get more. Maybe even get them going into her condo together. But this is a start. This is proof of the affair. I stared at the photo of my husband kissing another woman, the man I had spent my life with. I thought I would feel heartbroken, devastated. And I did, on some level. But the overwhelming emotion was not sadness. It was a cold, clarifying anger. He had made his choice. Now he would have to live with the consequences. Okay, I said, my voice steady. We have the forgery, we have the affair. What is next? Now, Lily said, we find out where the money went, and we prepare for the party. The next few days were a blur of secret phone calls and clandestine planning. Lily and I became a team of two, working to unravel the web of lies Richard had spun. While he was blissfully practicing his retirement speech, we were building our case against him. Lily was a marvel. She was methodical and relentless. She suggested we look for the notary, George Bell. If he is a real notary, his name should be in a public database, she explained. We found him online easily. He worked at a small mail and shipping store in the next town over. What do we do? I asked her. Do we confront him? No, Lily said. Not yet. A crooked notary is not going to just confess, but we know where he is. That is another piece of the puzzle. Our next focus was the money. The pension form showed the beneficiary change, but it did not show any money being moved yet. That would only happen after my death. But the email from Brenda had mentioned how secure they would be. It made me wonder if he had moved other assets. This was the hardest part. Richard kept all our financial records locked in a filing cabinet in his study. The key was on his keychain. There was no way to get to it without him knowing. We do not need the physical papers, Mom, Lily said over the phone. We just need account numbers. You said he does everything online, right? Yes, I said. Then we just need to get back into his laptop, she said. Can you do it again? The thought terrified me. Getting into his study once had been nerve-wracking enough. Doing it again felt like pushing my luck. But I knew she was right. That night, I waited until I was sure he was sound asleep. His speech was finally written. And he had celebrated with a large glass of scotch. He was snoring loudly. I crept out of our bedroom and down the hall to the study. My hands were sweating. The house was silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall and Richard's snores. I opened the laptop. Buddy 23. It worked again. I took a deep breath and started looking. He had a folder on his desktop labeled Financials. It was password protected. My heart sank. Of course it was. I was about to give up when I remembered something else. Years ago, for a security question on some website, he had used his mother's maiden name. Her name was Eleanor Vance. I tried Vance as the password. Nothing. I tried Eleanor. Nothing. Then I tried Eleanor Vance. The folder opened. It was all there. Spreadsheets, bank statements, investment reports. Decades of our financial life, digitized and organized. It was overwhelming. I did not know where to start. I called Lily, whispering into the phone. "Okay, Mom. Stay calm," she said. "Look for statements from the last few months. Look for large withdrawals or transfers. Anything unusual." I started opening files. I saw our joint checking account, our savings account, his investment portfolio. It was all much larger than I had realized. He had always been so secretive about the exact numbers, always telling me we were comfortable. We were more than comfortable. We were wealthy. And then I saw it. A folder labeled BS account, BS Brenda Schofield. My hands trembled as I clicked on it. Inside was a series of bank statements for an account I had never heard of. It was a savings account at a different bank, one we did not use. The account was in one name, Brenda Schofield. I opened the most recent statement. The balance was staggering, over $200,000. I scanned the transaction history. For the past 6 months, there had been regular deposits. $10,000 here, $15,000 there. The deposits were transfers from a brokerage account. I recognized the account number. It was Richard's personal investment portfolio. He had been siphoning money from his own accounts and depositing it into a secret account for his mistress. He was not just planning to steal my pension after I died. He was actively funding her life right now, with money that was supposed to be for our retirement, our future. I felt dizzy. The sheer scale of the deception was mind-boggling. This was not a recent affair. This was a long-term plan. He was building a new life for himself, piece by piece, right under my nose. "Lily," I whispered, my voice hoarse. "He has been giving her money. A lot of money." "How much?" she asked. "Hundreds of thousands," I said. "It is in a secret account in her name." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. "Okay, Mom," Lily said, her voice deadly serious. "Download everything. Every statement, every spreadsheet, put it on a flash drive. We need all of it." I found a flash drive in a desk drawer and started copying the files. It felt like I was stealing, but I knew I was just taking back what was mine, what was ours. It took almost an hour. My back ached from hunching over the desk. My eyes burned from staring at the screen. Every new file I opened revealed another layer of his betrayal. He had a credit card that I did not know about. The statements were filled with charges for expensive dinners, hotel rooms, and jewelry. All for her. When I was done, I ejected the flash drive and clutched it in my hand. It was a tiny piece of plastic, but it held the truth of my marriage. It was a weapon. I deleted the browser history, closed all the folders, and shut down the laptop. I tiptoed back to my bedroom, my heart hammering against my ribs. Richard was still snoring, oblivious. The next day, I drove to the city and met Lily at her apartment. We plugged the flash drive into her computer and spent the entire afternoon going through the files. Seeing it all laid out on her big screen, in neat columns and charts, made it feel even more real and horrifying. "He is a monster," Lily said, scrolling through a credit card statement. "He bought her a diamond bracelet for her birthday. Mom, do you remember what he got you for your birthday?" I remembered. He got me a new vacuum cleaner. He had said it was a practical gift. At the time, I had been disappointed, but had tried to be grateful. Now, the memory made me feel sick. "This is not just an affair," Lily continued, her anger growing. "This is a systematic financial takedown. He was deliberately draining your shared resources to build a life with someone else. This is fraud, Mom. This is a crime." "I know," I said. We sat in silence for a few minutes, the evidence of Richard's betrayal glowing on the screen in front of us. "So, the party is in 2 days," Lily said finally, turning to me. "Are you still sure you want to go through with this?" I looked at the files. I thought about the forged signature. I thought about the vacuum cleaner. I thought about the 35 years I had dedicated to a man who saw me as an obstacle to be managed and eventually discarded. Yes, I said, my voice clear and strong. I am sure. He is not getting away with it. We spent the rest of the day preparing. Lily printed everything: the forged waiver form, the bank statements from Brenda's secret account, the credit card bills with the charges for hotels and jewelry, the photos of Richard and Brenda kissing. She organized it all into a neat, damning folder. "What is the signal?" she asked me. "When do I do it?" We decided that the perfect moment would be during Richard's speech. He would undoubtedly talk about family, loyalty, and me. He would paint a picture of a perfect life that he was secretly planning to burn to the ground. "When he thanks me," I said, "when he calls me his rock or whatever other nonsense he comes up with, I will look at you. And I will nod. Just a small nod. That is your cue." "And I just stand up and say it?" she asked, her eyes wide. "You stand up," I said, "and you speak the truth, loudly." He signed away her pension to his mistress. Lily practiced under her breath. It sounded shocking, brutal, perfect. "And what do I do after?" she asked. "Nothing," I said. "You have done your part. The rest is up to me." The day of the party arrived. It was a beautiful, sunny Saturday, the kind of day that should have been happy. But my stomach was in knots. I felt a strange mixture of terror and exhilaration. It was the calm before the storm. I got dressed carefully. I chose the new dress I had bought, a simple but elegant navy blue sheath. I did my hair and makeup with meticulous care. I wanted to look composed, unbreakable. When I was ready, I looked at myself in the mirror. I did not see a victim. I saw a woman who was about to take her life back. Richard came into the bedroom, already in his suit. He looked handsome, distinguished. He smiled when he saw me. "Clara, you look beautiful," he said. "Absolutely stunning." He tried to kiss me, but I turned my head slightly so his lips landed on my cheek. He did not seem to notice. He was too wrapped up in his own excitement. "Are you ready for the big night?" he asked, adjusting his tie. "I am ready," I said. And I was. The party was at a fancy country club. The ballroom was decorated with flowers and balloons. A small band was playing jazz in the corner. The room was filled with people. Richard's colleagues, his clients, our friends, our family. Everyone was laughing and drinking champagne. They all came up to us, congratulating Richard, telling him how much he would be missed. They shook my hand, telling me how wonderful it was that we would finally have more time together. Every handshake, every smile felt like a lie. I saw Richard's sister, Carol, holding court near the bar. She was wearing a dress that was a little too young for her and laughing a little too loudly. She rushed over to us. "Richie," she squealed, hugging him tightly. "It is your night. I am so proud of you." She gave me a cursory glance. "Clara, you look nice." "Thank you, Carol," I said, my voice even. Lily arrived a few minutes later. She looked beautiful and fierce in a simple black dress. She came straight to me and gave me a hug. "Are you okay?" she whispered in my ear. "I am fine," I whispered back. "Is the folder safe?" She patted her large handbag. "Right here," she said. We exchanged a look of solidarity. We were in this together. The evening wore on. There were canapes and cocktails. People mingled. I played the part of the devoted wife, smiling and making small talk. I felt strangely detached, like I was watching a movie of my own life. Richard was in his element. He moved through the crowd, shaking hands, accepting pats on the back. He was glowing with pride and self-satisfaction. He had no idea what was coming. He was the king of a castle made of sand, and the tide was about to come in. Finally, the time came for the speeches. Richard's business partner went first. He told a few funny stories from their early years. He praised Richard's integrity and his dedication. The crowd applauded warmly. Then it was Richard's turn. He walked to the podium at the front of the room. He tapped the microphone. The room fell silent. He beamed at the crowd. "Thank you all for being here," he began. "It means the world to me to see so many friendly faces as I close this chapter of my life." He talked about his career, his accomplishments. He thanked his colleagues and his clients. He was charming. He was humble. He was a complete fraud. I could feel my heart starting to pound. The moment was getting closer. I looked over at Lily. She was standing near the back of the room, her eyes fixed on me. She gave me a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. She was ready. Richard's speech was winding to a close. "But of course," he said, his voice thick with fake emotion. "None of this would have been possible without the support of my family." He looked over at his sister, Carol, who was dabbing her eyes with a napkin. He then turned his gaze to me. He smiled, a warm, loving smile that was meant for the audience. "And most of all," he said, his voice ringing through the silent room, "I want to thank my beautiful wife, Clara, my rock. For 35 years, she has been my partner, my confidant, and the love of my life. Our future is secure because of our partnership, and I cannot wait to spend every day of my retirement with her." The crowd murmured in appreciation. People smiled at me. They thought it was romantic. I felt a cold fury wash over me. That was it. That was the signal. I looked across the room at Lily. Our eyes met. I gave her the nod. Lily took a deep breath. She stood up straight. And in a voice that was clear, cold, and loud enough for everyone in that dead silent room to hear, she shouted, "He signed away her pension to his mistress." The words hung in the air for a second. The silence was absolute. It was a physical thing, a heavy blanket that smothered the entire room. The jazz band stopped playing mid-note. A waiter froze with a tray of glasses in his hand. Every single person turned to stare, first at Lily, then at Richard, then at me. Richard's face. I will never forget the look on his face. The charming smile vanished. The color drained away, leaving his skin a pasty, sickly white. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. He looked like a fish gasping for air. He was completely and utterly exposed. The silence was broken by a gasp. It was Carol, Richard's sister. Her face was a mask of outrage. "Lily, how dare you?" she shrieked. But no one was listening to her. All eyes were on Richard. The silence stretched on, becoming more and more uncomfortable. People started whispering. I could see the questions on their faces. Confusion, disbelief, a dawning horror. Richard finally found his voice. It was a weak, strangled sound. That is a ridiculous accusation," he stammered, gripping the sides of the podium. "Lily, what is the meaning of this? You are drunk." This is the moment. My heart is hammering in my chest, but my mind is crystal clear. I feel a strange calm settle over me. This is not about hysteria. This is about facts. I stand up slowly. Every eye in the room swivels to me. I look directly at my husband. His eyes are pleading with me, begging me to deny it, to save him, to play the part of the good wife one last time. I take a breath. "It is not a ridiculous accusation, Richard," I say. My voice does not shake. It is calm. It is firm. It is the truth. A collective gasp ripples through the crowd. Carol lets out a little scream. "Clara, what are you saying? Are you insane?" Richard's composure shatters. "Clara, stop this," he hisses. He is no longer looking at the crowd. He is looking only at me. There is panic in his eyes, raw, naked fear. "Tell them she is lying. Tell them." I shake my head slowly. "I cannot do that, Richard," I say, "because she is not lying." I turn to the crowd. I see his boss, Mr. Henderson, a man known for his rigid moral code. I see our friends, people who have been in our home for dinner 100 times. I see my family. Their faces are a mixture of shock and morbid curiosity. I did not want to do this. I say, my voice carrying across the silent room. I truly did not. But my husband has left me with no other choice. For the past year, he has been having an affair with a woman named Brenda Schofield. I pause. The name hangs in the air just as Lily's accusation did. Richard flinches as if I have physically struck him. He has been giving her our money, I continue, my voice gaining strength. Hundreds of thousands of dollars that were meant for our retirement. And worse than that, he forged my signature on a legal document. He signed a waiver giving up my rights to my own pension. And he named his mistress as the new beneficiary. He was planning to leave me after this party and start a new life with her, funded by the money I earned over 30 years of teaching. The room erupts, not in loud shouts, but in a furious wave of whispers. The word forged seems to hit people the hardest. It takes it from a simple, sordid affair to something else, something criminal. This is a lie, Richard finally bellows, finding his voice. It is too loud, too defensive. She is making this up. She is unwell. He points a shaking finger at me. She has been acting strangely for weeks. Am I, Richard? I ask, my voice dangerously quiet. Or am I just no longer willing to be your victim? Lily walks forward from the back of the room. She is holding her handbag. She walks to the front and stands beside me. She does not say a word. She just opens her bag and takes out the folder. You have no proof, Richard shouts, his eyes wild. He is starting to unravel. Do I not? I say. I take the folder from Lily. I do not open it to the whole room. That would be too theatrical. My plan is more precise, more surgical. I walk over to the table where Mr. Henderson, Richard's boss, is sitting with his wife. Mr. Henderson, I say quietly, I believe you are a man of integrity. I would like you to see this. I open the folder and lay the first document on the table in front of him. It is the copy of the spousal waiver form. I point to the signature. This is the form Richard submitted to my pension provider. And this, I point to the neat forged signature, is supposed to be my signature. It is not. Mr. Henderson picks up the paper. He is a lawyer by training. He looks at the signature. He looks at the notary stamp. His face hardens. I then lay down the next document. It is the bank statement for Brenda Schofield's secret account, showing the massive balance and the transfers from Richard's brokerage account. This is where our retirement money has been going, I say. Finally, I lay down one of the photos, the one of Richard kissing Brenda on the restaurant patio. Mrs. Henderson lets out a horrified gasp and covers her mouth. Mr. Henderson looks from the documents to Richard, who is standing frozen at the podium. The look on Mr. Henderson's face is one of pure, unadulterated disgust. He drops the papers on the table as if they are contaminated. He does not need to see any more. Get out of my sight, Richard, he says, his voice low and menacing. It cuts through the noise of the room. Everyone falls silent again. You are a disgrace to this firm and to everything we stand for. You are finished. Richard stares at him, his mouth agape. His last line of defense, his professional reputation, has just been obliterated. Carol rushes to the table. You cannot believe her, she cries, grabbing at Mr. Henderson's arm. She is a vindictive, crazy woman. My brother would never do this. I turn to Carol. I feel nothing but pity for her. Carol, I say calmly, I have credit card statements showing Richard bought his mistress a $10,000 diamond bracelet for her birthday last month. Do you remember what he got me for my birthday this year? It was a vacuum cleaner. Do you still think I am the crazy one? Carol's face crumples. She has no answer. The detail about the vacuum cleaner seems to suck all the fight out of her. It is so mundane, so insulting that it makes the whole sordid story horribly believable. I turn back to the room. I do not need to say anything else. The evidence has done its work. The whispers have turned into open condemnation. People are looking at Richard with contempt. Some are already getting their coats, eager to leave the toxic atmosphere. The party is over. Richard stands alone at the podium. a broken man. His grand celebration has become his public execution. He looks at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of hatred and disbelief. He cannot understand how this happened, how his quiet, compliant wife could have done this to him. I meet his gaze. I do not feel triumph. I do not feel joy. I feel a profound and weary sense of release. The charade is over. The truth is out. I am free. I turn to my daughter. "Let's go home, Lily," I say. She puts her arm around me. "Okay, Mom," she says. We walk out of that ballroom together, leaving the wreckage of my old life behind. I do not look back. The drive home was quiet. Lily drove, her hands tight on the steering wheel. I stared out the window at the passing city lights, but I did not really see them. My mind was replaying the scene at the party over and over again. The silence, Richard's face, the look of disgust on Mr. Henderson's face, the satisfying, terrible finality of it all. "Are you okay?" Lily asked again, her voice soft. "I think so," I said. "I feel empty, but not in a bad way. Just quiet." "You were amazing, Mom," she said. "You were so strong. I was so proud of you." Tears pricked my eyes. "I could not have done it without you," I said. When we got back to my house, the house I had shared with Richard for 35 years, it felt alien. It was just a building full of furniture. The feeling of home was gone. "He will probably come here," Lily said, looking around nervously. "Let him," I said. "I am not afraid of him anymore." I made us a cup of tea. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I had sat just a week ago, my world falling apart. Now, it felt like the first day of a new world. My phone started buzzing. It was my friend Sarah. I had not even thought to call her. I answered. "Clara, oh my God, Clara," she exclaimed. "My cousin Janet was at the party. She just called me. She told me everything. Is it true?" "Yes, Sarah," I said. "It is all true." "Good for you," she shouted into the phone. "Good for you, that miserable worm. I never trusted him. I told you, did I not tell you? All those years I told you he was too slick." I smiled, a real smile this time. "You did," I said. "What are you going to do now?" she asked. "I am going to get a lawyer," I said. "I am going to file for divorce, and I am going to press charges for forgery." "You go, girl," she said. "If you need anything, a place to stay, someone to scream with, you call me, day or night." "Thank you, Sarah," I said. "It means a lot." After I hung up with Sarah, another call came in. It was an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Clara?" It was Carol's voice. It was not shrieking anymore. It was low and venomous. "What do you want, Carol?" I asked. "I cannot believe what you did," she hissed. "You ruined him. You destroyed his life, all because you were jealous." I almost laughed. "Jealous?" I repeated. "Carol, he stole my money and gave it to his mistress. He was going to abandon me with nothing. This is not about jealousy. This is about survival." "He loved you," she insisted, her voice cracking. "He would have taken care of you." "He loved himself," I corrected her. "And he was taking care of his mistress with my pension. Did you see the documents, Carol? Or did you just close your eyes like you always do when Richard does something wrong?" There was silence on the other end. "You have been his enabler your entire life," I continued, my voice cold. "You have always made excuses for him, but you cannot excuse this. He is a thief and a liar. And you have been cheering him on from the sidelines." "You are a cruel, cruel woman," she whispered. "No," I said. "I am just done being a victim." I hung up the phone. I blocked her number. I did not need her poison in my life anymore. Lily looked at me, her eyes full of concern. "You do not have to talk to her, Mom." "I know," I said. That was the last time. We sat in silence for a while longer. The adrenaline from the party was starting to wear off, replaced by a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. You should get some sleep, Mom, Lily said gently. I will, I said. But first, there is something I need to do. I went into the bedroom. Our bedroom. I took a suitcase from the top of the closet. I opened Richard's side of the closet and started pulling out his clothes. His expensive suits. His perfectly ironed shirts. His collection of silk ties. I folded them neatly and placed them in the suitcase. I went to the dresser and packed his socks and underwear. Then I went to the bathroom and gathered his toiletries. His fancy shaving cream, his cologne, the toothbrush he left by the sink this morning. I packed it all. I zipped up the suitcase and dragged it to the front door. I opened the door and put the suitcase on the front porch. Then I went back inside and locked the door. I engaged the deadbolt. It was a small act, but it was deeply satisfying. He was no longer welcome in this house. This was my house now. The next morning, I woke up feeling a sense of clarity I had not felt in years. The fear was gone. The uncertainty was gone. All that was left was a clear path forward. I called a lawyer Lily had recommended, a tough-as-nails divorce attorney named Margaret. I told her the whole story, from the pension form to the party. She listened patiently. When I was done, she said, Mrs. Miller, this is not just a divorce case. This is a criminal case. Forgery, wire fraud. He has committed serious felonies. I know, I said. I want to press charges. Good, she said. That will give us tremendous leverage in the divorce settlement. He will be facing jail time. He will be much more likely to cooperate and give you everything you are entitled to, which, by the way, is more than half. Given his egregious financial misconduct, we can argue for a much larger settlement. We made an appointment to meet the next day. After I hung up, I felt another weight lift off my shoulders. I was not just fighting back. I was taking control. Later that day, Lily's PI friend called her. He had been parked down the street from Brenda's condo. Richard had shown up there in the middle of the night right after the party. There had been a lot of shouting. And then, a few hours later, Richard had left, dragging a suitcase behind him. Brenda had apparently kicked him out. She did not want a broke, disgraced man with potential legal troubles. Her loyalty, it seemed, was only to his bank account. The irony was not lost on me. Richard tried to call me a dozen times that day. I did not answer. He left voicemails. The first few were angry, blaming me for everything. You have ruined me, Clara. Are you happy now? Then they became desperate, pleading. Clara, please, we can talk about this. We can fix this. 35 years. You cannot just throw it all away. I listened to the messages with a strange sense of detachment. It was like listening to a stranger. The man I had loved, or thought I had loved, was gone. Maybe he had never really been there at all. A few days later, I met with Margaret. She was even more impressive in person. Sharp, focused, and completely on my side. We went over the evidence Lily had printed. Margaret's eyes lit up when she saw the forged waiver form. This is our golden ticket, she said. With this, and the bank records, we have him dead to rights. We will file for divorce on the grounds of adultery and financial fraud. We will file a report with the district attorney's office regarding the forgery, and we will file a motion to freeze all his assets immediately, so he cannot hide any more money. The legal process was slow and complicated, but Margaret handled everything. A restraining order was issued, preventing Richard from contacting me or coming near the house. The courts froze his bank accounts and investment portfolios. The district attorney's office opened an investigation into the forgery and fraud. The fallout in our social circle was swift and brutal. Richard became a pariah. His friends stopped calling him. He was asked to resign from the board of the charity he had been so proud of. The country club suspended his membership. The world he had built, the world where he was admired and respected, had turned its back on him. Carol tried to rally support for him, but no one was listening. The story of the betrayal was too stark, the evidence too clear. Even her closest friends started to distance themselves from her. I, on the other hand, was overwhelmed with support. Friends I had not heard from in years called to tell me how brave I was. The women from my old book club dropped off casseroles and flowers. They told me they had always thought Richard was arrogant and controlling, but they had never wanted to say anything. It was a strange feeling to have my private unhappiness validated so publicly. One afternoon, about a month after the party, I got a call from Mr. Henderson, Richard's former boss. "Clara," he said, his voice grave. "I wanted to call you personally and offer my sincerest apologies. What Richard did was reprehensible. There is no excuse for it." "Thank you, Mr. Henderson," I said. "That means a lot to me." "The firm has conducted its own internal review," he continued. "We have found evidence that he may have engaged in similar fraudulent activities with other clients' accounts. We have turned all our findings over to the authorities. He has brought shame on all of us." I was stunned. I had known he was a monster to me. I had not considered that he might have been a monster to others as well. The legal proceedings dragged on for months. Richard, facing overwhelming evidence and the prospect of a long prison sentence, finally agreed to settle. He had no choice. The divorce settlement was more than fair. I got the house. I got 75% of our combined liquid assets. And most importantly, the spousal waiver on my pension was declared null and void due to fraud. My pension was mine again, whole and secure. Richard, in exchange for his cooperation in the divorce, got a plea deal in his criminal case. He pleaded guilty to forgery and a lesser fraud charge. He avoided a long prison sentence, but he did not walk away free. He was sentenced to 2 years of house arrest and 5 years of probation. He had to pay a hefty fine and restitution to the other clients he had defrauded. He lost his financial advisor license permanently. His career was over. His reputation was destroyed. He was a convicted felon. The last I heard, he was living in a small rented apartment on the other side of the state. Carol was the only person who still talked to him. Brenda Schofield had disappeared, presumably to find another wealthy, older man to latch onto. About a year after the party, Lily and I were sitting on my back patio. It was a warm summer evening. I had replanted the entire garden. It was filled with my favorite flowers, peonies and hydrangeas. The house felt like mine now. It was peaceful. "Do you ever regret it, Mom?" Lily asked quietly. "The way it all happened?" I thought about it for a moment. I thought about the humiliation of that night, the pain of the betrayal, the ugliness of it all. "No," I said finally. "I do not regret it. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that I spent 35 years with a man who is capable of such cruelty. But I do not regret exposing him. He built his whole life on a foundation of lies. It was bound to collapse eventually. I just decided to choose the time and place." We sat in comfortable silence, sipping our iced tea. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was beautiful. My life was smaller now in some ways. Quieter, but it was my own. I was not playing a part anymore. I was not walking on eggshells. I was free. Richard had wanted a party to celebrate his legacy, a night to remember. And in the end, that is exactly what he got. It was the night everyone would remember him for. Not as the successful financial advisor, but as the thief, the liar, the man who tried to steal his wife's future. It was a legacy of his own making. And I was finally free of it. Life settled into a new rhythm, a peaceful one. The house, once a silent monument to a hollow marriage, slowly came back to life. I painted the walls a cheerful yellow. I bought new furniture that was comfortable, not just for show. I hosted my book club, and the living room filled with laughter and real conversation, not the stilted, polite chatter of Richard's world. My friend Sarah was a constant presence. We took a cooking class together, something I had always wanted to do, but Richard had scoffed at. "Why do you need a class, Clara? You are already a wonderful cook," he would say, which was his way of saying, "Stay in your lane." The class was a revelation. I learned to make pasta from scratch. I learned the art of French sauces. It was not about feeding a husband. It was about the joy of creation. The financial side of my life was also a new frontier. With the help of a new financial advisor, a patient and kind woman named Helen, I started to learn about the money that was now mine to control. At first, it was intimidating. The numbers, the terminology, the sheer responsibility of it all. Richard had always made it seem like a dark art, something only he could understand. But Helen broke it down for me. She explained everything in simple terms. She answered all my questions without a hint of condescension. "You are a smart woman, Clara," she told me during one of our meetings. "You taught children to read for 30 years. You can certainly understand a balance sheet." She was right. Slowly, I gained confidence. I learned the difference between a stock and a bond. I made decisions about my own investments. It was empowering. I finally understood what Richard had kept from me all those years. It was not just control over the money. It was control over my sense of capability. He had needed me to feel small so he could feel big. One day, while cleaning out the garage, I found a box of Richard's old things that had been missed. Inside, amongst old golf trophies and college yearbooks, I found a small, leather-bound journal. It was from the first few years of our marriage. I almost threw it away, but curiosity got the better of me. I sat down on a dusty stool and opened it. His handwriting was neat, precise. The early entries were full of hope and what seemed like genuine affection for me. He wrote about our wedding, our first little apartment. But as I read on, the tone began to change. He wrote about his ambitions at the firm. He wrote about money, about wanting more, about feeling like he deserved more. Then I found an entry that made my blood run cold. It was from about 5 years into our marriage, right around the time Lily was born. "Clara is a good wife," he wrote, "a good mother, but she does not understand the world I live in. She is simple. Her needs are simple. This is an advantage. It will make things easier in the long run. A simple partner is a manageable partner. Her contentment is my asset." I closed the journal. My hands were shaking. It was all there right from the beginning. It was not a late-life betrayal. It was the entire foundation of our marriage. He had never seen me as an equal partner. He had seen me as an asset to be managed, a simple, contented tool to help him build the life he wanted. The rage I had felt on the night of the party came rushing back, but it was different now. It was mixed with a profound, chilling sadness for the woman I had been, the woman who had trusted him so completely. I took the journal, along with the rest of his things, and I threw it all in the garbage. I did not need any more reminders of him. A few months later, Lily called me, her voice strange. "Mom, you are not going to believe this," she said. "What is it, honey?" I asked. "I got a message on social media," she said, "from a woman who says she is George Bell's daughter." George Bell. The notary. I had almost forgotten about him. The district attorney's investigation had revealed he was an old college friend of Richard's who had fallen on hard times. Richard had paid him $5,000 to forge the notary stamp on my pension waiver. George had lost his notary license and was facing his own legal troubles. "What did she want?" I asked. "She wanted to apologize," Lily said. "She said her father is deeply ashamed. She said Richard ruined his life too. He convinced him it was just a small, harmless favor to help with some complex estate planning. Her dad was broke and desperate, and he made a terrible mistake. She said she knows it does not change anything, but she wanted us to know that he is sorry." I did not know what to say. It was another piece of the wreckage Richard had left in his wake. He had not just betrayed me. He had used a desperate old friend, destroying his life for a paltry sum of money. "Tell her I appreciate her reaching out," I said to Lily. "Tell her I hope her father can find a way to move forward." It was an act of grace I did not know I was capable of, but I found I did not have it in me to hold on to anger for this other broken man. All my anger was reserved for Richard. The final piece of the saga came about 2 years after the divorce. I was having lunch with my lawyer, Margaret, just to review my estate planning. She had become a friend as well as an advisor. "I heard something interesting the other day," she said, sipping her iced tea. "Through the legal grapevine?" "Oh?" I said, intrigued. "Richard tried to sue Brenda Schofield," she said. I almost choked on my water. "He what? For what?" "He tried to sue her to get back the $200,000 he had put in her account," Margaret explained. "He claimed it was a loan, not a gift. He argued he had been under duress and she had manipulated him." I stared at her in disbelief. The audacity of the man was truly boundless. "What happened?" I asked. Margaret smiled, a grim, satisfied smile. "He lost. Spectacularly. Her lawyer produced dozens of emails and text messages from him. Messages where he called the money a gift for our future. Messages where he promised her a life of ease and luxury. The judge basically laughed him out of court and ordered him to pay all of Brenda's legal fees." I started to laugh. It was a deep, genuine laugh that came from the bottom of my soul. The image of Richard, broken and disgraced, trying to claw back the money he had stolen for his mistress, only to be humiliated again, was the most perfect, pathetic ending I could have imagined. "So he is truly left with nothing," I said. "Less than nothing," Margaret confirmed. "He has fines, restitution, legal fees, and a criminal record. He will be paying off his debts for the rest of his life. He tried to build an empire on a foundation of lies, Clara, and it all crumbled to dust." That night, I opened a bottle of the good champagne, the kind Richard used to save for special occasions. I poured myself a glass. I sat on my patio, under the stars, in the beautiful garden I had built with my own hands. The air was cool and sweet. The house behind me was quiet and safe. I thought about the woman I was just a few years ago. The quiet, compliant wife who was afraid to ask questions. The woman who made herself small to keep the peace. I barely recognized her. She had been through a fire, and she had not just survived. She had been forged into someone new. Someone stronger. Someone who knew her own worth. I raised my glass. I was not toasting to Richard's downfall. I was not toasting to revenge. I was toasting to myself. To my freedom. To the quiet, beautiful, honest life I had built from the ashes of the old one. And as I took a sip of the champagne, I made a silent promise to myself. I would never again let anyone ever make me feel small. My life was my own. And it was just beginning. The years that followed were good ones. I traveled. I took a trip to Italy with Sarah, something we had talked about for decades. We ate pasta in Rome, drank wine in Tuscany, and stood in awe of the art in Florence. I sent Lily postcards from every city. In one of them, I wrote, "It turns out the world is much bigger and more beautiful than I ever imagined from my kitchen." I volunteered at the local library, helping adults learn to read. It was a callback to my teaching days, but it felt different now. It was not a job. It was a passion. Seeing the look on someone's face when they read their first full sentence was a reward far greater than any paycheck. It was a reminder that it is never too late to learn, never too late to start a new chapter. Lily got married to a wonderful man, a kind and funny architect who adored her. He treated her like an equal, a partner. He listened to her ideas. He valued her opinions. Seeing them together healed a part of me I did not even know was still wounded. It showed me what a healthy, loving partnership was supposed to look like. At their wedding, I gave a toast. I did not talk about the past. I talked about the future. I talked about the importance of honesty, trust, and mutual respect. I looked at my daughter, her face glowing with happiness, and I felt a sense of peace so profound it almost brought me to tears. The cycle of dysfunction was broken. She would have the life I was supposed to have. I never heard from Richard again directly. The restraining order expired, but he made no attempt to contact me. The news of his life came in small, sad whispers through the grapevine. He had to sell his car. He was working a low-wage job at a hardware store. He had aged dramatically. The charm and confidence that had been his armor were gone, replaced by the stooped shoulders of a defeated man. Carol, his sister, eventually moved away. Her friends had all but abandoned her, tired of her constant bitter defense of her brother. She had tied her identity so closely to his success that his downfall became hers as well. I sometimes felt a pang of pity for her, but it was fleeting. She had made her choices. One day, I was at the grocery store when I saw a familiar face in the checkout line. It was Mrs. Henderson, the wife of Richard's old boss. We had not spoken since the night of the party. She saw me and her face broke into a warm smile. "Clara," she said, walking over to me. "How wonderful to see you. You look radiant." "Thank you, Eleanor," I said. "It is good to see you too." We made small talk for a few minutes. She asked about Lily. I asked about her grandchildren. It was pleasant, normal. As we were about to part ways, she touched my arm. "I just want to say," she said, her voice dropping a little, "I have thought about that night many times. What you did took incredible courage. I do not think I could have done it." "I did not feel courageous," I admitted. "I just felt like I had no other choice." "Well, you did," she said firmly. "You chose to stand up for yourself. And in doing so, you probably saved a few other people from him as well." My husband's firm discovered Richard had been borrowing from the accounts of several elderly clients. They were people who trusted him completely, just like you did. Because you came forward, the firm was able to make them whole again before they even knew what had happened. You did a good thing, Clara. Never doubt that. Her words hit me with the force of a physical blow. I had been so focused on my own survival, my own justice. I had never fully appreciated the ripple effect of my actions. By saving myself, I had inadvertently saved others. The thought was humbling and deeply gratifying. We said our goodbyes, and I walked to my car in a bit of a daze. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, processing what she had told me. The story was not just about my private revenge. It was about accountability. It was about stopping a predator who preyed on trust. That night, for the first time, I let go of the last vestiges of anger I held toward Richard. He was not worth the space he was taking up in my head. He was a small, pathetic man who had caused a great deal of pain. But his story was over. Mine was still being written. And I wanted the coming chapters to be about joy, not about him. I sold the big house. It held too many ghosts. With the proceeds, I bought a small sunny condo with a balcony overlooking a park. It was all I needed. It was mine. I continued to travel, to learn, to spend time with the people I loved. I built a life that was rich and full, a life based on my own terms. I was no longer just Clara, Richard's wife. I was Clara, just Clara, and it was more than enough. Sometimes late at night, I would think about the woman in the journal, the simple, manageable partner. He had been so wrong about me. My contentment had not been his asset. It had been his blind spot. He never saw the strength underneath the quiet exterior. He never saw the steel in my spine. He thought he was playing a long game, but he had no idea who his opponent really was. He had underestimated me. And it had cost him everything. That was the legacy he had truly built. A cautionary tale. A monument to his own arrogance. And I, the simple, manageable wife, was the one who got to walk away, free and clear into the sunshine of a new day.